When you're looking for a new home or investment property, why not seek an almost 30-year experienced businessman and real estate professional who loves the cultures of Chicago and understands the Chicagoland housing market? When you choose Ford Desired Real Estate LLC, Shawn K. Ford will answer all your questions about securing a mortgage and providing valuable information for your purchase. LaShawn's house hunting kit includes a detailed summary of area schools, nearby amenities, and testimonials from homeowners who live in your neighborhood of choice. LaShawn knows this city better than anyone and can expertly consult you on property values. He'll take the pulse of your prospective community by highlighting neighborhood activities and notable facts. To list your property or to start looking for your next investment property, call LaShawn at 773-379-4663. That's Ford Desired Real Estate LLC at 773-379-4663.
Oh my goodness. Okay. What you guys laughing at me? I mean, y'all laughing at me. Both of you guys like, what's funny?
I woke up early for you.
Oh, thank you. You know what? That's good. That's mighty white of you. And
I tried.
What is it? The wide eye for the black guy? What was it? What are we doing?
Yeah. Like queer eye for the white, or the queer eye for the straight guy. We're doing white eye for the black guy.
Well, you know what? I'm right here on the west side of Chicago in the Austin community, and I'm excited. The sun is shining in my face, as you can see, and I'm excited about spring coming. I don't know if I've been able to adjust at 50 to this hour time. I mean, where you guys at?
Well, I'm in Evanston and I'm loving it. I wake up every morning, open the blinds, and my stepfather used to say, let God in every morning. So no matter what season is, if the sun is shining, let God in. I'm looking forward to being able to get back out there and walk and feel the weather, the season. Yes.
I knew you had God in you, Meleika. I knew it.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people say God's a black woman, so.
Woo!
Where you at, Mark?
Pardon me?
Where are you at?
I'm here in Oak Park, just a few streets down from you, but totally different tax situation. Yeah, property tax situation.
You keep paying the high tax, and we appreciate that. I think that the state appreciated it. As a state rep, I want to salute you for your ability and willingness to pay high property taxes.
Happy to do what I can.
We need those tax dollars. There's a lot going on in the rural and right here in our own backyards. I mean, there was this incident that I was reading from the Washington Post about West Point cadets overdosing on fentanyl while on spring break in South Florida. Now, that was amazing because the report talks about a group of 5 U.S. military academy cadets were among 6 men who overdosed on powdered substance believed to be cocaine and laced with opioid fentanyl while on spring break. That's pretty sad because those young people will now lose their career. They probably will be expelled from the academy.
I don't know much about fentanyl, but I've been hearing so many tragedies from. I mean, what does fentanyl do for the person? Make me understand that.
It's like heroin, but times 100.
Yeah, I mean, it's potent. And many people will say that people want that high. They want the fentanyl high because, if they say to a person, we have some heroin And we have a line with fentanyl laced heroin. The person looking for the best high will go to the line where fentanyl is actually laced with the cocaine or heroin.
Mm.
Well, and what it tells me actually is a little bit more ominous. In some ways, it's positive in a sick kind of way, but the ominous thing is that this thing is making its way into everything. So we sort of started where fentanyl was, the problem of the marginalized, right, of the hardcore drug user who was going to be pumping, poison into their veins. And so we thought of it in one way. But here you have some, nice, I would assume mostly white people who are on vacation and get a little, pick me up. And all of a sudden, there's fentanyl in that. And so, I guess it's just one way of saying that. To me, the problem is growing and expanding, and I am concerned about not only the hardcore drug users, but all the folks who are not making that choice for the stronger high, but don't even know they're in danger, and then all of a sudden they stop breathing. And that, by the way, Meleika, what the main problem is, and it's same issue with heroin, but heroin again is to overdose heroin, you sort of need a much larger amount than you do with fentanyl, but causes the same thing, which essentially it'll stop your breathing.
That's exactly right, because this is the stuff that they actually use for surgeries, and so you normally will use this type of drug when you have assistance with breathing. When you're when you're having surgery, there's going to be some assistance for the person to breathe. Well, now you're taking this fentanyl, which is so potent without the assistance to breathe, which makes it very deadly. And I would say that we have to make sure that everyone has this drug called naloxone, which is what saved the cadets' lives. Because the medical professionals came and immediately administered Narcan. That reversed the overdose, which made it an overdose and not a fatal overdose.
Goodness gracious.
And so it's really serious, Mark. And I've been trying to push this this legislation in Illinois to have what you call safe consumption sites, because safe consumption sites will allow people that's using to go into a space that is safe for them to use in case of an overdose to prevent it from being fatal. And what's important about this case in Florida is that the young people that actually overdosed, there were 4 that actually used the drugs reportedly for, and there were 2 that tried to save the lives of the people overdosing. This drug is so potent that even the contact of it will cause you to overdose. So what I'm saying is 4 people using, 2 trying to help those that's dying, and because they came in contact with this fentanyl, they too overdosed. That's why the safe consumption sites are critical, because you will have skilled people in the room able to assist those that are overdosing, because you can't just go up and grab a person that's overdosing off fentanyl, because if you don't have gloves on, if you don't have the protection, you could too be a victim.
Oh my goodness. So how are they getting this fentanyl?
Yeah.
How are they getting it?
It's coming from Mexico, right, Mark?
Well, it comes from Mexico or from China. It's being manufactured in great quantities in China. What it does, Meleika, is it you can mix it in and have a much more potent drug with less of the actual drug and more of the fentanyl, which is cheaper. And so it's sort of used to enhance various drugs. First they were putting it in heroin. Now you're finding it in cocaine and other hard drugs. And it's scary, and it is very, very lucrative. So it's just going to keep coming across the border.
It's cheap. It's synthetic, and it's made in a factory. Mark, let me ask you this. You named a few drugs that it's in. I've been told, and I've been also reprimanded in a way, because I said that there's reports that it's been found in marijuana. And people that use marijuana say those are false reports. There is no fentanyl laced in marijuana. But reports I've read said that it is,
Well, personally, I haven't had any in my marijuana. So I'm glad about that. I'm still here. I would say this. Who knows? Who knows who's sprinkling what on what? To me, it's just sort of nonsensical that it would be put into cocaine, because it's such a different buzz, if you will, than heroin, or want to sort of speed the others and opioid. And so it's sort of canceling each other out in a way. So I don't know. I don't claim to be a big supporter of it, but I will tell you what I did do, and maybe that's a conversation for a different time. But last week I went out and got a medical card for cannabis. And what that will do, unfortunately, for Representative Ford is allow me to buy the cannabis without paying the huge taxes in the state of Illinois, because as a medical patient, you avoid the 30 to 40% taxes. And I did that in part because I am really beginning to switch my shopping habits, if you will, from my sort of traditional street sources to the dispensary. And that's one of the reasons is I know and like the guys that I might be buying my weed from, but who are they buying their weed from, and who are they buying their weed from, and at what point does somebody mess with it? And so actually those kinds of concerns, the fentanyl, the illegal stuff that's grown, with a lot of chemicals and banned pesticides, a lot of people have been smoking that for decades, including me, because that's the only way we got that stuff. You never knew where it came from. Now we're, thank God, switching to a system where there's a label and testing, and it's not always perfect, but pretty sure it's not going to have fentanyl in it. So thank God for that.
That's what I was going to ask you, Mark. Do you think that what we see now is just cause for legalizing drugs, not just marijuana, but should we legalize all drugs in the United States?
Yeah, to me, it's a different kind of an issue. Again, the main problem is we don't see this issue for what it is, which is a health issue, a public health issue. You know that better than most, Representative Ford, given the kinds of things that you worked on. But it's sort of like, let's ban COVID, right? Is that going to do anything? No, people are still going to get sick. And it's the same thing with substance use. It doesn't impact everyone. One person can, smoke a joint or do a line of coke and not really care at all about it, or not, enjoy it and move on. Another person will want more the next day and the next day and the next day. And that's how addiction begins. I don't want to simplify it, but the point is that everybody is very different. And, just like some of us have been, in crowds and haven't gotten COVID, and somebody, goes out once and gets really sick right away. You never know. That's why drugs that come without a source attached to them, as it were, are of increasing concern to me. I'll tell you this. I'm glad my kid's not a real drug user, because I would have worries like that now. You know what I mean? Like if my kid was more of a substance user, I'd be worried, well, what's in it? You never used to worry about, when I think parents in the 70s were worried about their kids, on the devil's lettuce, smoking weed, going to hell and all that. But nobody was literally actually worried about their kid dying and coming back home, in a casket because they were smoking weed. But there you are. That kind of stuff does happen now. Not often, and not in weed in particular, just because the highs are not necessarily compatible. But it sure is, I think there are probably people who grow really bad weed for whom spraying a little fentanyl on it is a great way to improve their product, so they think, and they end up killing people.
For those of us who aren't really familiar with fentanyl, how would you know if your medicinal marijuana is laced? I mean, I've heard of marijuana being laced for years. That's one of the reasons I don't do it. There was a time here when I did do it, but
you want to do it, but you're not sure if it's late. Hey, Mark, we heard it right here.
Meleika, come on over. We'll sort it out at my house.
I mean, I've heard of, and I shared with Rep Ford a situation I had where someone laced some popcorn at a party in LA. Like, how can you lace popcorn? So I guess they laced it in the butter. And I was very upset about that. So how could you identify? Is there a way to identify fentanyl?
Yeah, there's test strips.
Well, you can't look at it or smell it, but there's certainly tests for it.
Yeah, so that's the only way. If you want to be a responsible, I don't know how to say it, but there are test strips for people, and that's one of the things that the safe consumption sites will have. They will have test strips where people will be able to, when they come in to use, they will be able to test it for the fentanyl. And so if you take it home, you could take these test strips. But, I'm sure Mark is thinking, well, when people are using, they're not ready to test. They're ready to get high.
Well, and I don't even know. I mean, who gives them away for free? I don't even know that. I'm sure there are agencies that will provide them for, the habitual users. But most people aren't, who are buying a bag of weed aren't going to, go out and get fentanyl. But, to perhaps just move this along to a little bit of a lighter headspace, I did want to point out that just in doing what we're doing, we are sort of pushing back against prejudice and assumption, because we've got one guy who's a white guy who's a pothead drug expert. We got a couple of black folks who he's explaining drugs to. So I think that's hey kids, be just like us. Where the black folks are straight, successful, clean people, and the white guys got to come on and explain drugs to them. I like this, and it absolutely contrary to stereotypes. So I think maybe if we do more of this, people will stop wanting to hire black men, and white men, and we'll start hiring black men because they're not drug users, right?
Yeah, Mark, it's funny you bring up the issue of black and white, because if we look at the way the cadets, it was portrayed with their tragedy versus how it's portrayed when black people are experiencing this type of tragic incident. This was a sad case. In America, the world saw it as a tragedy for these people, these young people smart cadets, bright future, and Lord knows this fentanyl got them, and it's unfortunate. And so we need that same compassion across the board. If we had that same compassion across the board, I think we will do better. You know, I think that there was an NBA player that was, I forget his name, but he was an NBA player that one of the Kardashians' boyfriends, and he overdosed, and he was just a bad person because he was doing drugs. And as you heard Mark say, this sometimes is a disease that people have, and we have to look at it that way, and we just have to respect people's choices. But I want to go back to Meleika's comment about where is it coming from. You said previously on the show, we don't bring these drugs and guns in our communities. And I said, you know, we got free will and we have to make good choices. You know, it is so unfortunate that the system is set up in a way that these drugs and things come into the communities and provide this underground economy for people and sort of discounts them in the mainstream economy. I say that because they caught, I guess he's a white guy that sold the drugs to the cadets, and he's now being held on a $50,000 bond. He made the choice to sell it to them. The cadets made the choice to use it. But the biggest elephant in the room is the government allowing this stuff in to set up failure. And I know that's your belief also, Meleika. We don't bring it in. Let's cut the snakes off at his head.
Exactly. So the government makes money off of it. So that's why it'll never end. That's a lot of people's theory.
Oh, I don't think, I mean, I think the government perhaps would like to make money on it. I mean, the whole thing is that's why, for example, cannabis got legalized so it could be regulated and taxed. Again, they're two sides of the same coin. Regulated and taxed usually goes together. And so I think there's a much better, more important conversation to be had here. And perhaps we'll want to have it at some point. And that's a conversation about legalizing drugs, which would take away the profit motive, which would make it more equitable for everybody to both be able to get drugs and to be able to get treatment, hopefully. But again, the main problem is that we treat it like a crime rather than like a sickness. So you have to treat the sale of drugs like a crime, but you need to treat the use of drugs like a sickness. Which is what it is. And, and I think that's one of the ways we've criminalized communities of color. In the white community, if you're, addicted, oh my God, poor you, we're going to take a semester off of school and send you to rehab. That's, $10,000 a month. On the other hand, the black kids who are using drugs are, these horrible junkies that are doing it to themselves and are irredeemable, and we throw them in jail. Like that's going to help anyone, society or them. So to me, it's just this whole drug thing is a symptom of the race thing that we keep talking about in some ways.
Yeah, first of all, it is a race thing. And this goes back long before we were born. But when you think about the Reagan era, the Bush era, when the drugs were coming into America, and then there was this war on drugs. Well, America knew the drugs were coming. They let it in. And then they criminalize people for the sale and use of it. And that's bad. And so when we talk about how does the government benefit, people lose from it but somebody benefits from crime. And that's a problem because people go to jail, taxpayers pay for it, and jails are ran by the government.
Yeah, how do we get to the root? How do we cut the head off the snake? Or what was the saying that one of you all use? How do we get to that person? How do we get to that person?
Well, and maybe the real question is that the person we need to get to? I think we need to get to what you're talking about is controlling the supply, which I think is the harder part, because controlling supply, what you're doing is paying for law enforcement. I would rather control the demand and address it at the demand side so that we're paying for addiction treatment, science-based medical addiction treatment, rather than law enforcement. And so to me, and I don't want to get this guy who's a politician on here in any kind of defund the police thing or anything like that. But that's the whole point is that one way to look at that whole conundrum is to say, which dog are we going to feed? You know what I mean? Are we going to go after the supply, which it comes from China and Mexico, which has billions of dollars at stake, and which we have almost no chance of controlling? Or do we go to the people who are right here in our community? Because all we need to do is help these people not use that. That's a lot fewer things we got to do, a lot of fewer things we need to control in order to help that user rather than stopping that user from ever getting the supply. And so I think that's one of the things that we really have to think about because, and it's funny because I think that, I like that this white guy out liberals both y'all sometimes, but the thing is, that's why we talk about supply or demand. I don't think we can really go after both at the same time comprehensively. And I think our current system shows that. We don't know what the hell we're doing. Some people are getting treatment. Some people are in jail. Some people go to jail with the understanding they'll get treatment, which is BS because we don't do anything positive in jails because we want to save money. And by the way, Representative Ford, sometimes I wish the government ran all the prisons rather than some of these for-profit corporations that contract with the government. The government pays them X amount of dollars. And, if you forget to buy inmates toilet paper, well, then you save on toilet paper if you're a company like that. And that's just completely inhumane and horrible. So the real question for us is, are we going to do what we have done, which does not work? Or are we going to try to do something that we actually control and can afford to do, which is to try to reduce the demand rather than the supply?
Oh, that's a battle between temptation and those with an illness. They're hurting, they're trying to self-medicate.
There you go.
And fighting evil at the root. I'm all for, I wish we could do both. I really wish we could do both, but I would love for us to fight evil at the root because we've never really done that. Have we ever arrested the person that's in between, say, Mexico and China and here, the middleman, but that's making the deal with Mexico and China? Have we ever gotten those people ever?
Let me just say this though, and I don't want to be like Yoda too much, but let me, speaking in whatever in parables, but the thing is we are never going to get these people. So the question is,
why, Mark? Why?
Well, because them is us.
Why can't we get the devil? Why?
Because them is us. And here's the real. Let me ask you this, Meleika. alcohol's legal. I drink alcohol occasionally. I'm not a big drinker because I'd actually cannabis is my preferred drug over alcohol, and I'm happy. I'm fine with that choice. More than fine. At least when I use my drug, I don't go up beat people up in bars. But
are you putting down people that drink? I mean,
no, just putting down people who can't hold their liquor like me. But here's the thing: is the alcohol the evil, or is alcoholism the evil? Are the drugs the real evil, or is the misuse and abuse of those drugs the real evil? And so, are we going to embrace and welcome drug dealers and drug manufacturers? No, I'm not saying that. But again, let's address the problem where the problem is, because not all drugs are a problem. People didn't want to legalize cannabis because some people might have a problem with it. So, but a lot of people don't. And that's what I'm just saying is that to me, a lot of the issue is not with the particular substance, but with how we view it and what we define as evil. Nobody, a white guy, upper middle class white guy, nobody really defines me as a drug addict, even though I may have a relatively regular relationship with a drug. Okay. People who have drinks 5 nights a week are not necessarily defined as alcoholics, and they're not necessarily ruining their lives. So I just think that, again, we need to keep our eye on the prize, which is the poison, rather than the sort of the need for the poison rather than the poison itself is I think the prevailing problem, because you could have something out there, if nobody wants it, it goes away.
Yeah, that's right. I'm with you 100% on that. And let me just say, and I know Meleika probably is going to have the last word on this thing, but I do know that we have to make sure that, one, that we do reduce the need for people to self-medicate, like Meleika said. But there's a group of people that use street drugs because they want to, and they don't feel that they have a substance use disorder, but they use because it's their choice of high, it's their choice of pastime. And then there are people that use that's struggling with the substance use disorder that know that they have a problem and they want help, but they can't overcome it. And we have to be there for everybody that's in there. The government and the community should be safety nets for these people. And finally, on the criminal part, it's important to note that we have to make sure that we dry up the demand, not only for the use, but people should have equal opportunities to have a career that puts them in the mainstream economy and sort of closes the door off of this underground economy. Meleika.
Well, some would say the sub-economy holds up the economy. I guess my question is, okay, is there no way? I mean, I know we need fentanyl. Clearly, you all have educated me and probably many others that are watching this, the use for fentanyl in the hospitals during surgery. So clearly, it's something that's needed, that needs to be here from China, Mexico.
Not the synthetic.
So the synthetic is coming from Mexico and China. You're saying, okay. So for things that we do need, I still just think we need to go after the person that's making those deals. I really, really do, because if the synthetic can't get here because there's nobody negotiating the deal, then there's nothing for people to get their hands on to self-medicate. They'll go to something like cannabis, which is healthier. which is healthy.
Oh, look at
Healthy. Cannabis is healthy.
Look at this.
It's green.
It's a plant. It's the plant of the earth.
It's healthy. You know, I spoke to a gentleman, which is interesting. He's his Terry Reed. He wouldn't mind me saying his name. And I really wish that he would get a license to get a dispensary here in Evanston, because his entire family was incarcerated over and over marijuana, and he's Jamaican. So they grew up with, it was a spiritual thing for them, right? And now he did get a license to train those who are opening up dispensaries, but I guess they won't give him a license to actually open up a dispensary, which for the life of me, I don't understand, because he understands cannabis better than anybody. He grew up in cannabis, his whole family. They're Jamaican. That's part of their culture. And he explained to me, which was interesting, what Mark said about people who drink. He said, if you like alcohol, you probably won't like cannabis. But if you like cannabis, you probably won't take to alcohol. And I just thought that was interesting that he said that, because I like a drink. Give me a Manhattan, some red wine.
I thought it went hand in hand. You smoke some weed and you drink some liquor, and it's like
and then you go to sleep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it's like the cocaine and fentanyl you were saying. They're opposite. Marijuana is what is it?
Marijuana puts me to sleep. I need to I need to get things, done. Marijuana knocks me out.
Both cannabis and opioids are depressants. Cocaine is whatever is the opposite of depressants, which I'm stimulant.
Yeah, stimulant. Yeah.
So it's a different effect. One puts you, some people who do drink a lot and smoke a lot of pot, sort of habitually, who are that, everything hits you hard in the head, will actually do cocaine to not fall asleep. Well, that'll keep them up so they can keep partying. So, glad this white guy can explain this drug stuff to you all.
Thank you.
We're counting on you, to make sure that we get it. Here I am in Chicago. You're in Evanston and you're in Oak Park. You guys leave me right here in Chicago. And I want to bring up some numbers. In 2021, there were 796 people shot and killed in Chicago. In 2021, 3,746 people were shot and wounded in Chicago. In Chicago, a total of 4,542 people were shot. Now get a load of this. In Chicago alone, in 2021, there were 851 homicides in Chicago. Now, that's important for our next topic, and I want you guys to just hear the numbers. That happened during the year that Jussie Smollet claimed that he was attacked by some mega people. That many people were killed, that many people were shot, that many people were wounded in Chicago. The numbers say that one person is shot every minute and 56 seconds in Chicago in 2021. And a person was murdered every 10 minutes and 22 seconds in Chicago, while Jussie Smollett was claiming to be attacked by some mega people that we now know that he was, that he planned it. Fast forward to 2022, it didn't end in 2021. It continued. The state's attorney dropped the case and it went to a special prosecutor. Year to date and in March. Let's go to March 2022. March 2022, in Chicago alone, there were 12 people shot and killed in March alone. In March alone, 73 people have been shot and wounded alone.
And this is just so far, right?
This is just so far. in March. No, that's just March. And total shot 85. But so far, year to date, in Chicago alone, there have been 100 people shot and killed. That's, to Mark's point, right now to date. 382 people shot and wounded. Total shot in Chicago, 482, and 108 homicides. And Jussie Smollet case is front and center. Resources have been used to prosecute him, and people are dying in Chicago. What's y'all take on Jussie Smollet being sentenced to 105 days in Cook County Jail?
Mark, you want to go first on that one?
I give you guys some more time. Let me give you guys some more time so you could be ready to talk about it. So Kim Fox dropped the charges, and she said in the interview, her words, quote, "Did we get vengeance today or did we get justice?" Fox said. Some people were like, yeah, absolutely, we got vengeance. He got what was coming to him. He lost his job. He can't work. People made fun of him. He did that. He got 150 days. Some people are saying that they threw the book at him. He had to pay the fines. He had to do all that. I mean, what is, and she says this is injustice. Was it justice?
I truly believe Jussie Smollett is a vision, a picture, an example of mental illness. I really do think that, because his reaction in the courtroom, I mean, and just the whole scheme was so disturbing and bizarre. Like, why would you even put your energy in something like that? I mean, it was just, to me, it just screamed he has some mental health issues from day one. And the fact that he didn't apologize at all, he wasn't remorseful, spoke volumes. Putting him in prison, they're saying that he was arrogant. I don't know if it was arrogance or mental illness that we were seeing. The judge was saying it was arrogance. I think it was a sickness going on. So in that case, I think he should have gotten some help from day one. And he did do an injustice to people who are experiencing real hate crimes. And I hated that he was trying to do this Black Power thing, at the end. That I was cringing. I was like, oh God, please, somebody, where's his publicist? Why didn't his attorneys just like grab him and like, shut up? But I think that the man has got some mental health issues, and that's what needs to be dealt with. That's my thought.
I agree on the mental health stuff. But I guess I'll ask the obvious question, since neither one of the Black folks has thrown that out yet, but I know it's got to be on all of our minds. And I often ask this question in other circumstances, but would he have been treated the same way if he was white? Let's say it was a white racist person who tried to stage a beating by Black people in order to exacerbate, race relations. Okay, we know this happens. There are whites who sort of want to see a race war, as it were. So let's say it was a white person who faked this kind of a crime and claimed he was beaten up by, Black thugs. Okay. Do you think that white person would get similar treatment, harsher treatment, or less harsh treatment?
They wouldn't get anything, because you've had white women screaming rape on innocent Black men since forever, and nothing happens to them. I mean, the woman who got Emmett Till killed, nothing happened to her. Nothing. They get nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's a great comparison. But let me just give a message to Black people. your skin is not white. And we have to remember that whatever situation we're in as Black people, our ultimate goal is to come out on top. We know that the system is not fair and just. We have to close our mouths and live to fight another day. Let me tell you something. Jussie Smollet was, whether you want to say mental health was a factor, arrogance, Hollywood, all of this plays. And he should have listened to advisors. And hopefully he had advisors to tell him that he had time to back down and rest and allow for this course of action to take place. He thumbed his nose at everyone. And that's not the way to do it. So I don't know if a white person would thumb their nose at the system the way he did, if they would have went after them the same way, because guess what? Even the day that he was getting ready to be sentenced, he put in for an appeal. And that means he has no contrition. He's not sorry about anything that he did. And the courts always look for that. So in my opinion, I don't think that he deserves to be in jail because it wasn't a violent offense. He could have done home confinement, maybe. And of course, that's a cost to the taxpayers. But home confinement for that length of time and maybe ordered to some type of mental health. But the problem with saying that he's got a mental health problem is, who are we to say that? That's not even right to say that this man got mental health problems. He's who he is, and that's who he want to be. So I can't diagnose him with having a mental health problem.
Yeah, that's true. It's just, most people on that night, people were doing quote unquote normal things. Nobody was thinking, let me tie a noose around my neck and call the police and or have my friends come over and beat me up intentionally in below zero weather at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Could he pick a nicer evening at least? Come on.
Something was definitely wrong there. And I think it's more to this story that isn't being told because it was just too bizarre. It was just too bizarre.
I'm looking for more motivation. I'm looking to understand what happened.
Yeah.
This thing, he manufactured this to be more famous. I don't know. It seems counterintuitive to me that somebody would go to all that trouble for that. I don't know what happened. And God, I mean, if he was going to, it's like if you are going to commit a crime, maybe, do a better job.
I think you closed last time in saying, I think in one of our episodes, what'd you say? Don't be stupid.
I like that.
That's my wisdom.
Oh my God. It's simple. It's simple. Don't be stupid. I mean, and we could spend all this money on studying and getting facts. But remember, I told you my mom said everybody knows right from wrong. They know the left foot from the right foot. Mark say, don't be stupid. Let's keep it simple.
Don't be stupid. Yes. I agree. He should have been on house arrest.
Yeah.
House arrest and community service.
He's paying back all of the fines and fees, but in his mind, he thinks that he's sticking with it and he doesn't plan to admit guilt. Now, State's Attorney Kim Foxx has said that that there's no doubt that he was guilty of the crimes, but the thing is, she said, history and what we know about class 4 felonies, they don't go to jail. People don't go to jail for class 4 felonies, which is why she decided that she wasn't going to put them in jail and drop the charges. She made them pay a fine, but no jail time.
As you know, Representative Ford, occasionally you and I talk and I give you some communications advice. And I don't claim to be a communications expert, but I wish Kim Foxx would have either gotten better advice or listened to better advice. And I don't know which one of these was, but she didn't do herself any favors, and she didn't do Jussie any favors, because she forgot one key principle. Well, she forgot a lot of things, but one key principle that she forgot was that she's Black and the person she was talking about is Black. Okay. And it's like one of the things that Representative Ford just said a little while ago, Black people, we're Black, we're not white. You can't forget that. And I think that whenever I look at a situation like that, and it's not only a race thing, but for Kim Foxx, it was going to be a race thing. It was going to be a political thing. And I just can't believe that somebody didn't give her the advice. Like somebody's got to be watching your behind. If there's nothing else that I'm going to do, if I'm thinking, oh my God, this is going to make LaShawn Ford look really bad, I'm going to call him, hopefully, and talk to him. And he may ignore me or, tell me to go blow, but at least, that conversation would have taken place. And actually, what I know of LaShawn Ford, he would have paused and thought about it and tried to figure out a, different path. He would have still wanted to do what he did or what he wanted to do, but he would have paused and thought about it. And so I think part of the issue here is Kim Foxx, the way she handled it. She didn't do herself any favors. And more importantly, she's one of the people who has brought Jussie to this point. If she had either not done what she did, or if she would have done it differently, or if she would have at least communicated at all. And she should have said, and I don't know that she did. I was very impressed with her statement. Is it justice, or is it something else? Is it revenge? Is it vengeance? I would have really, really found that argument compelling. When this process started, when she announced there weren't going to be charges, she was didn't want to explain it. And I think if she would have said this exact same thing, a lot of problems could have been averted.
Well, she's cut in. Kim Foxx, Cook County State's attorney, she's trapped in a situation here where she's trying to reverse some of the things that have been unjust in society. She's fighting a system that has been corrupt and racist, and we have to have balance. We have to have balance in this system. And one thing that I would close with is that this very same special prosecutor, Dan Webb, actually came out, and he was a special prosecutor for then Mayor Daley's nephew that actually was charged with homicide. And this very person got 6 months in jail for the death of a person, while Jussie Smollet gets 5 months in jail for a lie. I don't understand. This is the type of stuff that we're faced with as a society. Not just the Black person's problem, because my problem is your problem, Mark. My problem is your problem. You know what? The more people that look like me that go to jail and don't work, Mark, you're going to pay for it. I'm going to make your taxes higher, and you're going to pay for it. So you're cutting your nose off to spite your face, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not you.
Off to jail with you, Ford.
Thank you. So, I hope we all have a fantastic day, and I look forward to the next time.
Oh, yes. And what's our closing? My closing is always fight for your life. Do what you have to fight for your life. And
and I'm saying I ain't white, and I know it. I act like it, and I'm gonna fight.
And Mark?
And this applies especially if you're not white, because you have it tougher, so don't be stupid.
All right, this has been another episode of Ebony and Ivory.
The white eye for the black guy. Love it.
Good to talk to you guys.